While hearing all these terms which are written in the video like bills, acts, ordinance, rules and regulations, it all looks the similar, but it is not similar at all, and to understand the difference between them, it is very simple and easy. Welcome back to Online Legal Vakil, and I'll explain you regarding the difference between the bills, acts and ordinance along with the rules and regulations in this video. First of all, we must understand who governs India. The central government, or we can call the central government as the union government, who governs India. Now, government basically has three organs. Our body needs supports of different organs to function properly. Similarly, government will also need these three organs to function it in a systematic way. Therefore, we have three organs of the government like the legislative, the executive and the judiciary. Basically, the legislative makes the law, the executive implements the law and the judiciary interprets the law and gives judgment and maintain peace and order. Indian Parliament is also known as the legislative. The another name for the Indian Parliament is legislative or the legislature. Bodies which comes under the legislative are the President, the Lok Sabha or the lower house, the Rajya Sabha or the upper house, which is also called as Council of States. Executive will have bodies like President, the Vice President, followed by the Prime Minister and his cabinet ministers. Executive, it basically administer the country and look after the governance of the country. Now we will see the bodies of the judiciary. The first body of the judiciary is the Supreme Court, which is the highest authority in the court system. Next comes the High Court and followed by the subordinate courts. Hopefully you have understood the bodies which are under the organs of the government. Now let me give you a scenario. Suppose a law has to be made in our country, so how will the whole procedure start? Can you explain me that? Well, I'll say you how the procedure is followed in this case. It will basically start with a draft or policy, which is a starting point which contains some objectives and guidelines related to the new laws which is mentioned in the draft. Next, this draft is presented in both the houses of the parliament, that is the Lok Sabha, the lower house and the Rajya Sabha, the upper house, where they will discuss the draft and do voting for the same. After that, as soon as the draft is presented in the parliament, it becomes a bill. Therefore, the process of becoming a bill is clear hopefully, as the draft is presented and passed by both the houses of the parliament, it becomes the bill. Like this one. Basically, there are so many types of bill: ordinary bill, money bill, financial bill and special bills. Financial bill is further divided into Financial Bill 1, Financial Bill 2. Special bills are divided into Constitutional Amendment Bills, which is further divided into Federal and Non-Federal. Federal, the state ratification is required in case of the Federal Bill. Now, if this bill gets passed by both the houses of the Parliament and President also gives assent to the bill, then finally the bill becomes the act. Finally the bill becomes the act. Therefore, how we will see a draft becomes a bill, and after the draft is been passed by both the houses of the parliament, it becomes an act. Therefore, the whole normal legislative procedure is, first a draft is presented before the parliament. When it is given consent by both the houses of the parliament, it becomes the bill, and finally when it is passed by both the houses and president also gives assent or the consent, then the bill will become an act. Therefore, how a bill becomes an act and the acts we study now, how it is formed, hopefully that is clear to you. Now let's discuss about what is an ordinance. Before understanding about the ordinance, first let us know how does the parliament functions. So let me tell you, do our parliament means the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha which works throughout the year? Do you think that the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha is functional throughout the year? Comment me below, though the answer is no. Actually, it's not written anywhere that when parliament has to take sessions and bring laws. But traditionally, there are 3 sessions of the parliament. The first budget session runs from end of January to May. The second is monsoon session which runs from July to August, and the third is the winter session which runs from November to December. The sessions can be extended and reduced according to the need. Now let us come back to the ordinance again. Only a normal rule is that the gap should not be more than 6 months between the ordinances. Therefore, between 2 sessions, the gaps must be only of 6 months and not exceeding 6 months. When parliament is not in session and due to an emergency, if some laws has to be passed urgently, what is that done in that case? We'll look into that now. In that case, we take help of the ordinance process. So when the parliament is not there in session, and we call that period as recess, and when during that recess, if any law has to be passed urgently, then in that case, central level under Article 123, the president, and in the state level under Article 213, the governor has the power of law making. Therefore, in case of the central level, government will decide on the law making, and in the state level, the governor will decide upon the law making when the parliament is not in session and any kind of urgent act has to be passed and has to be come into an effect immediately. Therefore, acts and ordinance has all the similar characteristics, except ordinance is only valid for 6 months plus 6 weeks. So, as we know that the difference between 2 sessions of parliament will not be more than 6 months, and ordinance come into picture during recess only. So, when after 6 months the new session begins, then the ordinance is supposed to be presented in front of the parliament. Now within 6 months, within this 6 weeks, the parliament has to decide whether the parliament will pass that ordinance or will reject the same. If both houses pass the ordinance, then it becomes an act, and within 6 months the parliament does not pass the ordinance, then by default it gets dismissed. Hopefully you have understood what is an ordinance, when it is coming into an effect, and what are the validities and the logic behind this 6 months and the 6 weeks. If you haven't understood, do comment me on the below comment section. I'll explain you in another video in a detailed format. Now let me go back to the original video and let me tell you what is the rules and the regulations. Executive makes the rules to implement the laws, that is to apply the acts. Therefore, in order for the application of the acts, rules are mandatory, rules are made. In case of central level, if the central government makes acts, then central government will only make the rules. Therefore, if the central government is working on a particular project, in particular act, then the central government is solely responsible to make the rules regarding that act. In case of the state level, if the state government makes any acts, then the state government will only make the rules. This is the principal reasons behind why central rules and why state rules are made. Therefore, if the state level and if in central level the governments are getting involved, then for a particular act or for a particular statute, they are only responsible to make the rules. Under rules, there will be regulations, and it is not necessary for every act to have rules and regulations. We do not see all the act or all the legislation or all the statutes containing the rules and regulations, which is not at all mandated as well. In India, there are some statutory bodies or independent authorities like RBI, SEBI. They have the sole right to implement the acts. They are the statutory bodies or the statutory authorities which are having the sole right to implement the acts. They function as per the regulation they make for their proper functioning. So, as they are the statutory body, they are not relied on some other organs or the bodies. They basically function as per the rules and regulations they make for their proper functioning. Hopefully the video was clear and useful to you. Let me know in the comment section, do you need this kind of videos or not? Thank you so much for watching. Do subscribe to my channel and do not forget to press the bell icon. Please support me to grow.